Hello and welcome to Marketing Speak. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer, and today I'm very excited to have Swish Goswami with us. Swish is the CEO of TrueFan. He's, believe it or not, only 23 years old. He's the founder and CEO of TrueFan, which is a social intelligence platform that helps brands of all sizes make smarter marketing decisions using data. His company's made 2 acquisitions, raised over $4.1 million to date from several NBA players and venture firms, and has clients like Samsung, Netflix, the NBA, NFL, Puma, and a plethora of small to medium-sized businesses. Wow, that's impressive stuff. Swish, it's so great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me, Stephan. I really appreciate it.
So first of all, I'm very curious. When did you get started with your entrepreneurship journey? If you're 23 now, were you, 10 when you first founded your first business?
Yeah, I mean, I had stints of entrepreneurship, I think, as a kid. I don't know if I actually even knew the word entrepreneur growing up, really. It wasn't something that was talked about a lot in my family. But when I was 7 years old, I remember building a hovercraft with my father because he was an engineer by trade, and he wanted to teach me a little bit about engineering, designing. So building that was really cool because I was able to sell it for $200 and buy a Nintendo DS on my own merit. That was probably the best purchase I think I've ever made in my life. And then, later on, when I was close to high school, I joined a program called Junior Achievement.
Oh, yes.
Junior Achievement is a program in Canada, teaches entrepreneurship.
And in the
And it was
U.S.,
really cool.
I've been in it
Oh, and the
myself.
US.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah. And they're just fantastic. So we actually built a custom lapel pins company as part of the 6-month program. We won Southwest Alberta's Company of the Year. We were nominated for Canada's Company of the Year in the program. And it started to kind of give me a little bit of a sense that, hey, maybe this is, a good path for me. Maybe there's something here. But for TrueFan specifically, I started that when I was 20 years old. So I dropped out of my second year of college, was working in New York, and created a huge media platform called Dunk before I started TrueFan. And Dunk had about 11 million followers across 21 different accounts on Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat. Our biggest account was @Dunk on Instagram. And it was through the process of really building up that audience and working with brands that I came up with the initial idea for TrueFan and why it would be important for brands to be able to reward their top fans.
Wow, that is so cool. I love those kind of from nowhere to infinity kind of stories.
Yeah.
That's fabulous. And what would you say has been the biggest kind of knock on your butt that you got through this process of starting a business to kind of figuring out how to get money from investors, making acquisitions? Like what's been the most painful but hopefully rewarding life lesson?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things. I think number one, I realized that though I was really good at getting an idea off the ground, I maybe wasn't the best person when it came to managing people. I think just management of people is a totally different discipline, and it was something that I had to learn the hard way by having people either leave the company because of me and like just not feeling valued, or even having situations where I just didn't get the most from people because I wasn't asking for more and I wasn't managing them in a way that was inspiring them to work faster and harder. So that was kind of a hard lesson, but definitely a lesson that was good for me to learn over the past three and a half years, really, of building TrueFan. And then the second thing I think that was equally as important is just how important it is to have a pulse on where marketing, for example, is going or where your industry is going. Like for us at TrueFan, one thing I'm very, very proud about is that 3 years ago, influencer marketing was at its peak, you would say. Like everyone was starting to get into it. It was like the next big thing in marketing. And we capitalized on that, but in a different way in terms of encouraging people not to only go after the most influential people, but ideally influential people that followed them. They're influential followers, they're influential fans. In our second year, we realized that a lot of people wanted to not only look at their own top fans, they wanted to look at their competitors' top fans. So we built out, functionality within our product through an acquisition that was able to allow us to give basically a database of over 2.4 billion unique social profiles to brands and allow them to segment and filter not only their audience, but their competitor audiences as well. And then in our third year, we realized that the trend, when you take a look at privacy, when you take a look at, Apple's newest software update coming out in 14.5, or if you take a look at GDPR and CCPA or third-party cookies going away, the trend seems to be away from even third-party data towards first-party data. And that's where we decided to, again, build out functionality through an acquisition around first party data generation and helping brands really start to get into generating first party data, becoming a database, not only a third party data for them, but first party data as well. So I think we've been a little bit ahead, but again, it definitely takes a strong pulse, on the market in terms of talking to the right people, having the right people around you in terms of investors and advisors, and just staying in the know and talking to your customers as much as you can about what they're seeing within their jobs.
Amazing. All right. So let's talk about third-party cookies going away. Let's give a little background on the situation, timeline, and all that sort of stuff, and then what our listener can do to prepare and kind of ameliorate the situation for themselves if they're reliant on third-party cookies.
Sure. So I think consumer privacy concerns have been rising gradually over the last few years. I think the inflection point definitely was Cambridge Analytica, right? When Facebook got caught for basically being ignorant.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that Netflix movie was incredible.
Social Dilemma.
The Social Dilemma. Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
It was eye-opening. I was actually watching it with my mother a few weeks ago, and it was like, my mom was like, whoa, this is happening? Like, now I know why, whenever I get like a shopping ad of something that I was talking to my friends about like 3 days ago, I'm not like surprised about it anymore. Because it almost feels like your phone's listening to you sometimes.
Yeah. And to think that entire governments have been put in place because of the shenanigans going on at Cambridge Analytica. I remember, what was it, Trinidad and Tobago? Their prime minister was...
yeah.
Is that what it was? That was that.
And the massacre in Burma and Myanmar, right? The spread of fake news around Rohingya Muslims in Myanmar led to basically, a mass exodus of those people leaving because they were scared for their life, and that was because of fake news that was spreading on Facebook about, these guys having some sort of disease or infection that was gonna, come in and affect mainstream Burma. So there's a lot of problems, but to be fair, going back to the initial point, like these consumer privacy concerns continue to rise. And one thing that a lot of companies now have had to face with is how do we go about getting customer data, but in a way that allows them to feel respected and to feel valued for the data they're giving. Facebook is of the mindset still that given the fact that we consent to their terms of agreements and use their tools for free, that they can just take whatever data they want. And you're actually seeing this recently play out even in Apple's iOS update, right? Apple decided to make sure that every single time you're being tracked, you get the ability to give permission to the apps that are tracking you. And Facebook doesn't like that. They were like, why would you do that? Because the number of people would just probably opt out, which most people would. If I knew I was being tracked by an app, I'd probably opt out unless there was an app that I was really, really close to. So we're seeing this entire privacy debate happen. And one of the kind of byproducts of that is that Safari, Firefox, and Chrome have decided to take away third-party cookies by the end of 2022. So every time you go onto a site, you're now going to be prompted by that site to accept their cookies. So first-party cookies are fine. When you accept it, it's fine. It's not like cookies altogether are going away. But any sort of third-party cookies, ideally where you come onto a website and it tracks you without your consent or without your permission, those are going to be going away entirely by the end of 2022. So pretty massive change, and definitely a big change for advertisers when it comes to how they go now about advertising to audiences without their permission.
Right. And so if Chrome is doing this by the end of 2022, then most likely other browsers will follow in suit, right?
100%. And I mean, Chrome makes up about 85.17% of, browser users in terms of desktop, not mobile, but desktop. And again, like Safari's already committed to this as well, obviously, because of Apple's recent, push towards really trying to be on the right side of history here. And Firefox as well with Mozilla. So it's pretty cool. I mean, one thing with TrueFan actually that we're really excited about is a consumer platform we're going to be putting out by the end of this year. And I can't speak too much about it, but that consumer platform is going to be geared towards basically allowing people to get rewarded for their web data, and allowing them also to be able to see exactly what data is being tracked and to be able to manage that data to a certain extent.
Oh, that's great. I'm keen to
Yep.
hear more about that when you're ready to make an announcement. I'm actually working on a book all about data rights. Think of
Cool.
civil rights as it evolves to become, in part, data rights, because we don't normally get control over our data and how it's used.
Hmm.
It's just, yeah, the big corporates are using that data without compensating us and not for our benefit for the most part. So people
Right.
need to be
Right.
smart about how they're using search engines, how they're using social media, and all the different apps. Yeah,
Yep.
it's a big deal.
Yeah, and my big thing is I don't think people mind sharing data. Like I think one of the things we actually do when we generate first party data is we get information directly from customers for brands, right? So whether it's a Bud Light or G Fuel or Electronic Arts, they want emails, they want phone numbers, they want mailing addresses, but they don't know how to do that properly, like in terms of obtaining that information in both a compliant and high quality manner. That's where they come to us. And what we've kind of deduced is that people are fine giving their data. However, they want to know that they're getting something for it. And previously Google and Facebook, the claim was that we can take customer data because we provide our platforms like Google Maps and Google, the search engine, for free. But the balance is just so different now. 10, 12 years ago, oil was still the most valuable resource in the world. And that's just drastically changed now, right? Seven out of the top 10 most valuable companies in the world are companies that collect data. Data is definitely more valuable than oil as a resource now. And I think it's time for us to be able to balance the scales a little bit in terms of providing value back to consumers.
Yep, agreed.
Yep.
So let's talk about some of the capabilities of the TrueFan platform, because
Hmm.
you've got some very innovative technology, and not that we're going to make this a pitch or anything, but
Yeah.
it's really fascinating. I mean, you didn't pitch me to be on the show. I pitched you. I contacted you because I found out about your platform and I was so impressed by it. And I'm like, I got to have this guy on my show. So if you could give us some kind of a behind the scenes around what your platform does that is really innovative.
Sure, no, 100%. I appreciate the kind words. There's three facets to our platform. So number one is first party data generation. Essentially, what we do is we help any brand or influencer generate compliant and high quality first party data through giveaways right now. So we have this amazing platform that we call Player. Player gets about 600,000 monthly visitors each month that are interested in giveaways and obtaining prizes. And so, whether it's working with Bud Light to create the ultimate gaming experience or working with G Fuel to give away some of their product, we set up an awesome giveaway. And our giveaway technology is proprietary because not only can we get you Instagram followers or Twitter followers, we've built integrations that allow you to be able to drive traffic to any growth objective you have. Whether it's I want more app downloads, I want more newsletter signups, I want more people to watch a certain video, and we can actually make sure they watch the entire video before entering the giveaway. That's the type of stuff that we built out that's really unique to our giveaway platform. Past that, once you've generated that data, we have the second phase, which is segmentation. Our dashboard not only allows you to take your first party data and segment and filter it, but also allowed you to view third party data, so data from Instagram and Twitter, and segment all of that. So you could find all the people that are verified who follow you on Instagram between 0 and 100,000 followers that are in Miami and have the keyword vegan in their bio. That's how specific you can get with some of the filters that we've built out on our platform. And the final step is
Okay, so
activation.
there are
Right?
no
Yep.
coincidences, right?
Yeah.
So I'm about to move to Miami. I'm a vegan,
Perfect.
so
Perfect.
it's
Yeah.
pretty funny. Like
Yeah.
in 2 weeks, well,
Yeah.
Miami area, like Hollywood, Fort Lauderdale. So that I just had to point that out. It's fun. Okay, keep
Amazing. There are a
going.
lot of people moving to Florida, I feel. I feel
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's becoming the next hub.
I think so too. I think so too. It's a great place to be. I'm in Tel Aviv at the moment. That's
Got it.
been a fun place to be, but now it's time to move somewhere else. And yeah,
Yeah.
Florida's
I've
it.
heard I've heard I've heard Israel during COVID has been unreal. Like you guys have cracked down properly and done your stuff. And at least from the outside, we've seen parties and stuff too now. Like things are kind of going back to normal, I heard.
Well, yeah, the outside view is not what's really happening in the inside.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Feels very
Hopefully
draconian from the inside, just my personal opinion. But yeah, back to the topic at hand.
Totally. But the final aspect of the product is activation. So essentially, once you have all these emails, you can then, we have a really awesome integration with Zapier that we're actually going to be announcing hopefully in a month and a half. And you'll be able to send emails directly through our platform. You'll be able to even import data from our platform to HubSpot or to Salesforce to be able to bring it back into your CRM. So that activation piece is something we're still in the process of building out. Hopefully in a month and a half, 2 months, we'll have that built. But everything from first-party data generation to segmentation is currently live. And we're very excited to be working with, obviously, a lot of big enterprises on that.
Very cool. All right. So how would you land the next big, massive client like the size of the NBA or NFL? Mm-hmm. Like what's your game plan for landing, I don't know, the baseball league or whatever?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the MLB, for example, is actually someone we're talking to right now.
Oh, okay.
And
that's funny.
I mean, the one good thing is we're coming in with a lot of great case studies, right? Like we have, we worked with the NFL, we worked with the NBA, Procter and Gamble, Netflix is a long-term client of ours. So we can take some of these really big case studies and tell tell leagues like the MLB, hey, here's what the NBA is doing, here's what the NFL is doing, and try to see if they're interested in that. But beyond anything else, my bottom line pitch is this. I think any brand manager today wants to grow their channels, right? And a lot of brand managers want to grow their channels on new platforms that are popping up, like Twitch, for example, right? When we worked with Bud Light, it wasn't like they wanted more Instagram followers. They wanted Twitch followers. They wanted people that were following them on Instagram to also follow them on Twitch. And they designed a giveaway campaign that was perfect for that. So that's a big thing that we can help out with, is allowing you to really move your audiences. And my long-term goal here is also to help you move your audiences to places where you can engage with them at any time without paying, right? Like I feel like right now, so many brands like the NBA, they have 50 million followers on Instagram, which means every single time they want to engage with their audience, they have to use Instagram. They're reliant on that platform. And the problem with reliance is that A, if Instagram ever goes away, you're screwed. Or B, if Instagram changes, which they definitely have, like their engagement rates have plummeted recently. A post that you made 10 years ago might reach 5 million people. Now it's going to reach 500,000 people. You're kind of screwed unless you pay money to Instagram to advertise to your own audience, which doesn't make sense. That's why we're really bullish about first-party data, because when you have those emails, when you have those phone numbers, you can then engage with your audience wherever and whenever you want. On your own terms, you can retarget them and build a relationship with them as opposed to having to be reliant on third-party platforms.
Wow. Well, let's talk a bit more about how reach has plummeted, not just on Instagram, but also on other platforms, right? So Facebook, actually, I think probably led the charge with that in terms of plummeting rates so that they could get everybody to pay. Yeah, it's essentially a pay-to-play platform on Facebook and has been for some time now. So, yeah, let's talk a bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting because I was watching, there's an interview that came out from Adweek with Melissa O'Grady, who's the CEO of Cadillac, and she had the same views, right? She said on Instagram and Facebook, I'm a little bit nervous because every single time we advertise, we have to essentially pay money to reach our own audience. And it's no surprise, right? Engagement rates have constantly declined, like you said, because Facebook's just looking for more people to pay for ads. And that's kind of what they think is going to continue to drive their business. I would actually say on a large kind of, I guess, more philosophical debate, I think paid ads overall are actually declining dramatically when it comes to their effectiveness for big brands specifically. Like Airbnb, for example, 2 months ago, took out their entire paid marketing division, right? They literally just cut their performance marketing budget because they realized that throughout COVID, their search results were going up. Their results on social media, like their impressions, were constantly staying the same. Their purchases were increasing, and it had no correlation or no real kind of causal link to their paid advertising efforts. And what they realized is that instead of advertising, what they need to do is focus more on community building and on trust and actually reaching out to their customers and working with the right people that can allow them to continue to stay top of mind. So I think eBay's also seen that in the past. eBay turned off their paid ads and noticed no dip in search results for SEO when it came to Google. And so I think it's just worth noting that paid advertising, especially if you're a big brand that already has brand awareness, like people already know what you do generally, there's kind of a really strong, like diminishing marginal return there that you kind of have to be aware of if you're a brand manager.
Yeah. So if you're a small business owner or marketer for a small business, what would you say is a platform that still gives a lot of free reach without any strings attached?
LinkedIn for sure. I've grown my personal brand on LinkedIn for the last 4 or 5 years, and I've noticed that LinkedIn continues to have really good organic reach. I don't know why. I don't know what they're doing with their algorithm compared to Facebook, but it just seems like LinkedIn isn't trying to drive people to advertise, right? They're very clear that for individuals, for small businesses, you can still build up your company page, you can build up your individual page. And as long as you post consistently, you tag the right people, you get a certain amount of comments within the first hour or two, you can go viral, and there's been a number of people that, like, I've literally told them about LinkedIn. They've tried it out for a few months and they've had 1 or 2 viral posts and that have reached 50,000, 100,000 people. And they've just been shocked by it. Like, where did this come from? So I think LinkedIn is still a great place to play. And I think past that, I can't think of anything else. I mean, I'm not a fan of Snapchat. Twitter is cool. I just don't know how to use Twitter, really. I think you have to be of a certain breed, in my opinion, to figure out the Twitter algorithm and to be able to really figure out how to even build a community on Twitter. I think wherever you choose, though, daily updates is very important. Regardless of whatever platform you choose, I think platforms are encouraging people to post daily by giving them more views and by blasting their content across people's profiles more. So I think staying active seems to be the number one ingredient for setting yourself up for growth on social.
Yeah. And what's your view on TikTok?
Not on it. I obviously know that my entire generation seems to be on it, right? Gen Z is very much on it. I would say with TikTok, I've heard that CPMs are very low, but that's also because conversion rates are low too on TikTok, from what I've heard. And this is from one of my friends, Nick Sharma, who is an e-commerce marketeer, has worked with a lot of big brands. He just has found that TikTok is appealing, obviously, because a lot of brands want to reach that particular audience, and they're literally just all there for the taking. But the platform itself, their ads manager, they haven't figured it out too well yet. But thankfully, it doesn't cost high. It's not like LinkedIn, where I actually do feel like LinkedIn CPMs, they're high and their effectiveness are also low. So thankfully for TikTok, both are low. So it's fine just testing it out to see if it works. But I think TikTok, again, goes back to just organic content will probably allow you to do well. There's a company called Flighthouse, actually, out of LA. They've done a phenomenal job over the last 2 years of just putting out organic content on TikTok. And reposting viral content and putting a new caption, tagging the original owner, and just aggregating the most viral content on TikTok and sharing it that way. And now they're getting into original content with some really cool creators. So there's a number of things you can definitely do on TikTok that I think, worked also on Instagram during the early days.
And what do you think of YouTube as a social media platform? I mean, it is the number 2 search engine, of course, and it is a social platform because people are favoriting and liking and all, their live streams, all the sort of typical things you see on a social media platform. But for some reason, people tend to not think of YouTube as a social platform.
Yeah, I think it's because we're so accustomed to seeing a feed, and like every platform has stories now, right? I guess YouTube has stories now too, to be fair. But I mean, I guess we're so accustomed to just seeing a feed where like we can share a post very easily. Like you can share a tweet, you can share a Facebook post, you can share an Instagram post. The average user going on YouTube, and this might be a total lie, but I just think the average user going on YouTube doesn't think I'm going to post a video. Right? Like, I just think that's the psychology. The average person going on YouTube is like, I want to watch videos, not I'm going to post a video.
Yeah. They're consumers, not producers or creators.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I do think, YouTube is cool, though, because we're kind of seeing this battle between YouTube and Twitch around compensation for creators and which model seems to work better for them. Some people I know still actually like YouTube's algorithm. They like the way that YouTube allows for, small creators to be discovered. They also like the ability to just make money off ads, versus other people love being able to build up a big audience and have each person pay $5 to them and not have to have ads or anything like that overarching their videos, which gives them also autonomy over what they post because they don't have a fear of being demonetized either. So I think you're seeing this really cool debate play out. I think both platforms are incredibly effective. I do think Twitch, though, is the future. And I think a lot of people still think that Twitch is just for gaming, which it definitely isn't. Twitch is definitely more than just gaming content now. It's become very far-reaching.
So Twitch is the future. Please elaborate.
Yeah, I mean, I think compensation for creators, the ads model, like I said, going back to why I also just think paid ads is useless. I don't think ads will be around in the future. Like, I think it's in 10, 15, 20 years, we're going to figure out a new way to advertise, but it's not going to be done in this kind of way that's intrusive, that interrupts people's day, that makes them watch stuff they never wanted to watch in the first place.
You sound a lot like Seth Godin right now.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, why did we even come to this point? And I guess maybe this is the first phase of the internet, but we're going now into the second phase, and I think we're very rapidly going to get into the third phase after. The second phase being around asking for permission from people, and the third being actually compensation for consumers. But I genuinely think Twitch has figured out a great compensation strategy. And the people that stream on Twitch, from what I've seen at least, they seem to be exclusively doing their content on Twitch. Like, they're not like all over the place. It's not like they're only, doing YouTube, but they're also putting on music and they're doing stuff on Instagram and TikTok. The people on Twitch that I've seen, like the Alexandra Botez's of the world, who post even chess videos, they're only streaming on Twitch because they love what they do. There's like a great way to make money on Twitch that doesn't require them to be on every other platform and having to like make money in 4 or 5 different ways. So I genuinely think between brand deals and making money on Twitch, creators are more likely to flock towards that model. And I genuinely do think that the audience, again, of Twitch, is fairly young. So give it 5-10 years and you're going to obviously see those people grow up, become mainstream consumers buying things. And that's where, again, more brands are going to be spending money on Twitch too to be able to reach that audience.
Yeah, should be interesting.
Yep.
All right, so let's talk about community building. And I know you gave Airbnb as an example of a company that's really doubling down on that.
Mm-hmm.
Please elaborate on what the future is in community building. What are best practices? What's Airbnb and whoever else that's really doing a great job with it? What are they doing?
Yeah, I think there's obviously the element of trust, which is so important, right? Like, we're inundated with so many different options now for every category. Even for Airbnb, there's so many competitors that have popped up for Airbnb across various places, depending on where you live. There's an Airbnb, I feel, of that country now. And it's just worth noting the reason you're going to pick Airbnb is because they have set a standard. They've set a standard. They've communicated it on social media. They've been patient with you. They've been kind with you. They've given you content that maybe inspires you, makes you think about a vacation, makes you think about what it would feel like to be in that location. So I think trust, number one, is probably the most important thing. And Airbnb, I think, has done a great job of doing that. Like, even like now, like if I ever have issues with customer service, I can literally tweet them and I'll get a response back by end of day. They're just that responsive. And it's great to see that. The second would be, I think a lot of brands, a lot of consumers, want the brands they follow to talk to them like an individual, and you're seeing that with Burger King, for example, on Twitter, right? Like they're savage. They roast people. They act like they're an individual page versus a corporate page. You see that with the Mercedes Formula One team. Their Instagram page, they share memes and they ask people to caption the memes. And then they actually go into the comments and respond to people directly, thanking them or making fun of them or giving them a joke that they go and screenshot, and then those people reshare it. So I think being an individual as a corporate brand and not taking yourself too seriously is a great way to produce viral content, because it's just so different. When you see like a KFC that's been a long time corporate brand, their CEOs, their corporate executives, they're all fairly older people that generally, when they do interviews, don't feel like they have a sense of humor. But then you see them on social media and they have this totally different brand that's youthful and young and passionate and energetic and humorous. I think it's just really cool to be able to see stuff like that. So I think those two elements are really important, kind of not taking yourself too seriously as a brand and really focusing on community building through, interacting with trends, being a part of those trends. And then secondly, I think trying to foster trust by being as responsive as you can on social media while also being very patient and leading with empathy. I think those are some of the key things to keep in mind if you're a brand manager.
Leading with empathy. I like that. Okay, so I got to get an example or two of brands like, say, Burger King roasting other brands. And one example that comes to mind, I actually had to Google it for the exact thing. It's really funny, though. Burger King UK, in response to Kanye West's tweet saying McDonald's is my favorite restaurant, their response explains a lot.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, do you have any examples of any of these kind of roasts?
I have a lot from the Mercedes team because I'm a big Formula One fan, and so it's funny because there's a driver in Formula One, Kimi Räikkönen, and Kimi Räikkönen is known to be short-tempered. So in a Formula One car, when you're driving, you obviously have like 60, 70 laps. You don't get off your car ever and go and take a leak or even drink water. So they have something called a drink, which is basically a pipe that's connected to their mouth, and they can drink it whenever they need water. And so Kimi in this one video was like, "Hey guys, do I have my drink on?" And they were like, "No, it's an Italian team called Alfa Romeo." And they were like, "No, Kimi, you will not have the drink. You will not have the drink. You do not have the drink." And Kimi just gets so angry about this. And so the Mercedes team, for probably the next year, kept posting any photo that Lewis Hamilton, the Mercedes driver, took with Kimi Räikkönen. They'd constantly continue to allude to that. Did Kimi get the drink? Do you think Kimi got the drink? And ask people to comment, right? Like encourage them to comment. Just funny, statements that Kimi's made in the past, whether it's that statement or other statements he's made in the news. So I just love that type of stuff. I feel like, and the common line between all of them is that they play into culture. They play into popular news, right? Like Kanye West is a popular figure that is a part of culture. We talk about him pretty much on a weekly basis. Formula One, in terms of this meme that came about, was shared all over the place. "No, Kimi, you will not have the drink." That became a meme that now Mercedes is able to play into. So finding these moments of culture, and I feel really like putting your brand into them, if it makes sense, not pushing it, because I know you can be called out also for being corny, and it can really backfire. But being careful about how you really intertwine your brand and values to that point of culture, I think that could be a really cool entry point for a lot of brands to be able to start engaging with younger people that are really interested in this type of stuff.
Yeah, it seems like a community that would be really ripe to or just receptive to this kind of poking fun at yourself and your brand and competitors and so forth would be Reddit. And it's also a very dangerous place to play if you're a marketer, because they will come out with their pitchforks. So what's your view on Reddit?
I like Reddit. I think I've always told people this. The most like the memes, for example, right? I think memes are probably the best thing you could post on Instagram. People love seeing memes, right? Some of the biggest pages on Instagram, not run by celebrities, but just generically just pages, tend to be meme pages. And I've always said that the funniest content on the internet normally always starts on Reddit. It's normally always either a comment on Reddit or it's someone posting a meme on Reddit that then later, like 2-3 weeks later, gets picked up on Instagram and Facebook by these bigger pages. So I think Reddit's awesome. Again, like you said, though, I find that, it's tough to advertise on it because the community there can be quite unforgiving. And it's a little bit hard unless you have someone really good at moderation. So if I was ever looking at Reddit as a platform that I was looking to grow my brand on, the first person I would hire is a community moderator or just a community manager in general. Because, you really want to make sure that you're proliferating the discussion that happens around your brand on Reddit. It can go very much south very quickly, I feel.
Yeah. And so what does a community manager's job look like? And how would somebody, a listener who thinks they need a community manager, hire that person?
Yeah, so I think community managers now are a little bit more dynamic. I think in the past, they were literally just people that schedule posts and respond to comments and gets back to DMs. But I think now you're starting to see a community manager do two things. One is outreach for sure still. So scheduling posts, responding to comments, responding to DMs. That's still one function, which is very much around outreach. But I think the second is around trying to think about what can we possibly do with our followers to get them to engage on our content. And that's very much fed into the creative process as well. What is the type of content we should put out that can really drive community to comment? What is the type of even virtual event that we could set up that allows for our audience to be able to meet us and to be able to engage with our brand in a more direct way? So you're starting to see a community manager go from kind of just being a communicator, an outreach a messenger, if you will, to really being like the facilitator of conversation, somebody that's setting it up for people to be able to engage.
Okay. Are these community managers just hanging out on Craigslist, waiting for job offers or something, or what's the process to recruit somebody like this?
It's not the most technical job, right? I think you obviously even we're hiring community management interns right now at TrueFan, and we're not looking for people that have like 10 years of social media experience. We're just looking for people that are hungry to learn. But the number one thing is that they love to talk. They love to talk and they love to read, because we want people that understand, okay, what is trending in culture today? Like across sports, across fashion, across entertainment, across humor, across lifestyle. What is trending? I want people that are cognizant of that, because if something really big happens and the world is talking about it, I want my brand to be able to talk about it too, or at least to be able to think about how we can intertwine our brand with that moment of culture. So that's really the requirement. So it's not like you need, an intense amount of experience, which is why I feel like community managers tend to be a lot younger now too. Like you're seeing literally like 22, 23, 24-year-olds get hired into big corporate companies to be a community manager or to be a brand manager, because these corporations want to stay ahead of the curve. They want to advertise to a younger demographic, but they don't understand what the hell these guys are watching or reading or who they're following.
Yeah. And are you using a platform like Acadium to find your community manager interns and other types of interns, or some other platform?
No, I mean, we get a lot of inbound, which is nice. So we do get quite a lot of people over the summer kind of reaching out and saying, hey, do you guys have internships? And we normally do have internships across marketing and sales and CS, customer success mainly. And then two, we've actually worked with an organization called Career Up. So Career Up is cool because they actually offer tuition credit to students. And so you essentially can get away really with paying a nominal rate to interns. And not having to pay them like a full-time salary or a part-time salary, because they are compensated through student tuition credit that they're able to use towards graduating. So Career Up is a great program. I know they started maybe a year or two ago, and we've had a really good relationship with them.
Oh, cool. So how do you figure out what is trending? Right? I know that, for example, you can check on Twitter. There's a little thing on the side that says these are trending hashtags. You can use a tool like BuzzSumo. You can use SparkToro and see what the popular hashtags are for your competitors' audiences and so forth. Like what are the tools and approaches that you find the potential community managers are using to figure out what's trending?
I'm maybe a little bit more manual and maybe a little bit more traditional here, but I don't find any tools too appealing. What I find more appealing is following the right people. So I try to look at, okay, who is ahead when it comes to these trends? Like who normally capitalizes on these trends a lot? For example, there's a YouTuber, his name's Logan Paul, right? Logan Paul, some people might know him as that person that was infamous like 3 or 4 years ago. He did a huge blunder as like a PR, kind of nightmare really for any YouTuber. But then he bounced back and he had a really good career, and he's put out a great podcast called Impulsive, and he's, ahead now on the crypto and NFT side, and he's been boxing as well. He might be fighting Floyd Mayweather soon, apparently, which would be insane. So that's someone that I'd be like, yeah, follow him, because if something is trending in the world, he's going to talk about it either on his podcast, or he's going to talk about it in terms of some of the ways that he even works. Like he's going to release an NFT before everyone else does, because his team is just so forward minded. So I like to follow certain people that I think allow me to kind of understand where things are going. Elon Musk on Twitter is always fun, though he can be a little bit crazy at times. But the type of person that would talk about stuff that's trending. And again, he's also a point of culture, right? Like when he says something, people listen. And sometimes whatever he says becomes a moment of culture. So following either directly the source or the messengers of those sources is always great.
Yeah, that's great advice. And
Yeah.
since you mentioned NFTs, we gotta explain it to our audience here.
Yeah.
First of all, I highly suggest our listener go check out the Saturday Night Live skit, "What the hell's an NFT?" because that is amazing.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
I haven't. No, I haven't.
Oh, wow. It is hilarious. It's an Eminem parody, a
Okay.
rap about what an NFT is, and you're gonna have to watch it multiple times. It's like there's many layers to it. It's incredible. It's hilarious and awesome. Okay, so what is an NFT, non-fungible token? What does it mean for the layperson, and why should they care?
Sure. So the way I break it down is, okay, so think about digital assets. Let's talk about digital assets, whether it's digital art, whether it's a music file, whether it's a video, a photo, whatever it is, right? A digital asset. Previously in the world, when you were to share it around, you weren't able to monetize it. You would share that clip, and people would download it, and unless you built a paywall, you wouldn't be paid for that piece of content. And it's also worth noting that many people could just also steal that content and reshare it, and people could take a screenshot of your art and say it was their art, and there was no way to verify whether this was the original or not. Now with blockchain, there's the ability to do a couple of things. Number one is you have the ability to verify whether this is the original source, whether this is the place where this art was created, because you can tag every piece of content back to its original creator. The second thing you can do is that you can share digital art very easily across the internet. And so someone in Malaysia could buy your art, and even if they don't have USD, it's fine because they can pay through Ethereum, and they can buy your art using some of the tools online like MetaMask, that is a wallet that allows you to share crypto back and forth. On the most fundamental way to think about NFTs, I would think about it like a concert ticket. On a concert ticket, you have the name of the event, you have your name, and you have the date of the event and where you're sitting. It is personalized info, which means that no one else except for you can enter that festival or enter that concert because it directly traces back to you. That's essentially what an NFT is. In the way that you want to think about, how it verifies back to one source. It's similar to a concert ticket in that way. So we're seeing this kind of NFT boom now where people are sharing an NFT, whether it's a music file or whether it's art, mainly art, I think, or even if it's a collectible. We're seeing like NBA Top Shot, where you can buy a moment of history, of NBA history, and you can resell it on a secondary market and make even more money because you actually own it once you bought it.
Yeah, so this is an investment opportunity too. So instead of investing in Bitcoin, you can invest in NFTs, and perhaps the upside potential is much, much larger even.
100%. 100%. Yeah, definitely investment opportunity.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'll have to look into that. Okay, so now let's go completely in a different direction, and let's talk about intuition. Like, clearly you have business acumen, you have common sense, street smarts, and a lot of, I don't know, just drive, hustle, right? And there's a place for intuition too to grow a very successful business. I'm curious to hear what are your kind of most magical coincidences, kind of intuitive moments in the trajectory of your business.
I think two things come to mind. One is reconnecting with my co-founder, Onik. So I actually met my co-founder, Onik, when I was 17. He was 16. We had both won an award, Canada's Top 20 Under 20. So I'd won it mainly for debating. I debated for the national team in high school, and he had created an app. He created a ringtone that only people under the age of 21 could hear. and he went on Dragon's Den and he pitched the platform, and he actually got venture capital funding at the age of 16 from a woman named Arlene Dickinson. And so it was really cool to be able to meet him at the event. He was actually my roommate at the event too, and we became really, really good friends over the course of a week of that event, because it was not just an award ceremony. There was a bunch of training workshops, etc. And it was by coincidence, I guess, but I was coming from New York. Now, this is like fast forward, I'm 20 years old. You know, we're coming back from New York, and I'm speaking at an event in Vancouver. And Onik, my co-founder, he's from Vancouver, but he was in his second year of Stanford. And I guess for some reason he was back home and his house got flooded. And it turns out he was staying at the same hotel that I was speaking at, the Fairmont Royal Pacific. And it was just so cool because I ran into him in the hotel lobby, and I'm like, hey, long time no chat. It's been like, 3-4 years now. And we had a great catch-up kind of call after. And then we met in San Francisco when I came for business for Dunk, the company that I worked on before TrueFan. And when I came up with the original idea for TrueFan, he was my first phone call. I asked him, like, hey, I know you're studying computer science and engineering at Stanford. Would you be interested in coming on and helping build this with me? And he was very interested. He eventually, obviously, took a gap year after second year, which eventually turned into an extended leave of absence. And we've been working on TrueFan full time ever since. But that's one moment that I just think is like, what a coincidence that I even ran into him in that hotel lobby. And his house got flooded, in Vancouver. It's crazy how the stars can align there.
Whenever you hear yourself saying, what are the odds, or that's crazy, that's divine intervention. Just saying.
Very much agree. I very much agree. There had to be something there. But the second thing that also pops up in my head is COVID. I actually think I was very scared when COVID broke out. I was starting to think like, okay, would we survive as a business? Would we have to lay people off? Would people be safe? Would they be healthy? Would they feel motivated to work virtually? And I realized there was a silver lining. The silver lining was two things. One, as a business, we didn't need an office anymore. So we were able to save on costs, especially in Toronto. An office space can definitely be expensive. And it also meant that a lot of businesses, retailers, restaurants that weren't able to get people into their stores anymore were now coming online. And what do you want to do when you get online is you want to find your tribe. You want to find your community. You want to find your top fans. So we actually saw business spike after COVID because a number of people were interested in digital tools like ours to reach out to their community. And the second thing we also noticed is that a lot of our employees actually liked working virtually. They didn't like getting up at 8 a.m. in the morning and going to the office. They actually liked being able to work a little bit more on their own schedule, work in their own environment, wear pajamas and take calls. Like they just liked working virtually and working remotely. So that was really cool to be able to even see like, okay, there's a whole new way of working that I just wasn't open to before because I didn't think it was right. I didn't think people could actually build a successful company working virtually or remotely. And now the entire world has to do it. And we have this great opportunity to do it well. So we've actually decided even post-COVID to continue working virtually. We'll likely have a sales office in Toronto come up next year. But past that, our whole development team is going to be working virtually. And our marketing team is also going to be working remotely.
Oh, congrats. Yeah. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really cool. Okay. So since we're on the topic of, coincidences and divine interventions, I'm curious if you're familiar with Dr. Amit Goswami. Do you know who that is?
I'm not.
Okay.
No.
So I interviewed him on my other show on Get Yourself Optimized, which is a biohacking and spirituality podcast. And this guy is amazing. He was in the movie What the Bleep Do We Know? Do you know that movie?
No.
Okay, that's a good movie to check out, documentary.
Good.
And this guy, he's older, much older. I forget exactly how old, but he's elderly, but he is just whip smart, and he is just so spiritual. But he's also a quantum physicist. So he wrote about things like the God particle, and one of his biggest books was called The Self-Aware Universe. He's an amazing guy. You should check him out. And listeners, go check out the episode. Okay, it's episode number 151 of Get Yourself Optimized. highly, highly recommend checking that episode out. So, okay. Now, you had mentioned that COVID, the pandemic, has had a silver lining for you. What was the intuition or the intuitive moment that allowed you to turn lemons into lemonade, essentially?
Yeah, I think, well, number one, we realized that enterprises were slowing down in terms of purchasing new technology. A lot of our points of contact were getting laid off or being moved, or they didn't actually know how much they had in their marketing budget anymore. So the enterprise sales cycle became much longer, which meant, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to focus now on small businesses, because small businesses, retailers, restaurants, they're out of business. They're looking for digital tools. They're looking to come back online and try to drive, Uber Eats sales or DoorDash sales, or get people to their online stores for retail.
So what did this look like? Like you
Yeah,
called a team meeting and you said, "All right, guys, I have
all
this
hands.
feeling that an
Yep.
all hands meeting.
Yeah.
I have this
Yeah.
feeling that we're going to need to pivot very quickly, and here's what I think is our new market.
Yep.
Let's
Yep.
brainstorm ways to reach them, get their attention,
Yep.
get their interest, and close them quickly."
Yeah, I
Something
mean,
like that.
we went into lockdown March 21st, and April 2nd, I called an all hands. We got on the all hands. I told them, look, I think we need to push deeper into SMBs. And we always wanted that. It was always on our roadmap to eventually go after SMBs, but we just decided to accelerate that process. So we kind of took our product and skinned it down, made it simpler, easier to use. We added interactive guides and tutorials on it. We changed the whole pricing model, made it affordable. We put out a knowledge hub with a bunch of articles and videos of do's and don'ts and testimonials as well, revamped our entire website, and also put out a free plan. So we did a lot within that April month to be able to set us up for May and onwards, where, May onwards, we put out these plans, and it very much became a big hit. Within the first 3 months, we got over 500 customers. And we're now, I think, over 750 customers. And it's just been great to be able to see that type of growth. I think one of the things we did obviously have to work on is retention, because, small businesses, easy to get, but also easy to lose. So you very much want to be able to fix that bucket and make sure that nothing flows down.
I gotcha. Yeah. I know we're coming close to time here. Do you have a couple more minutes to do one last question and then we wrap up, or do you have to run?
I do have to run.
Okay.
I'm really sorry. I do have
no problem. So
yeah.
Where do we send our listener to sign up for TrueFan, to learn more, to follow you, and all that sort of good stuff?
Cool. Yeah. And if you're interested in TrueFan, check out trufan.io, trufan.io. And if you're interested in reaching out and just saying hey to me, LinkedIn. LinkedIn would be the best place to find me. Swish Goswami, SWISH GOSWAMI. Feel free to drop me a message. I check my inbox every day, so I'll make sure to respond.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Swish. This was awesome and inspiring. You're inspiring, and thank you for sharing. It was fun.
Thank you for having me. This was fantastic. Really, really loved it.
Okay, awesome.